Hello, this is the tradesight Stocks and Futures Roadmap for the week beginning Monday, March 25th, 2013 and ending short on Thursday, 28th of March. We are closed Friday for the Good Friday holiday ahead of the Easter weekend. Going to look at some of the major indices here on both the daily and weekly charts, do some analysis, and then we'll look at the economic data that's coming out this week and see what it is that we have to be mindful of in our trading. It's always important to put these things in perspective before the week starts so that you have a solid foundation for what you're watching and when you're expecting the biggest moves in the market. Every week we like to pick one or two things that we think will be the focal point of the week. Unfortunately, this week's a little light on focal points when you got a 3-day weekend ahead and Friday is the day off, which is unusual. Thursday will probably slow down quickly as people head out early. So we don't have a lot of major economic data coming out, as you will see. There's not a lot to focus on this week. The one thing that we do have to focus on, and we'll talk about this, we'll do it now, is that this week, because of the Thursday, not short day, but people leaving early, and Friday being the holiday, this is the end of quarter. So a lot of times for the last few days of the quarter, you see stocks pegged to certain prices because the funds want them in a certain place for quarter ending statements. And so that means that Tuesday, maybe Wednesday and Thursday for sure, be a little bit slow as stocks are kind of pegged to those prices typically. And again, when you add on a 3-day weekend and people leaving early Thursday, it doesn't bode well for action later in the week. So I'd say if there's a day that we would get the better trading, it's probably going to be Tuesday. Mondays are a little slow. Tuesday's a little better. Wednesday things will slow down for end of quarter. Thursday's definitely going to be slow. So we'll look at the economic data in a moment. Now here's the S&P 500 weekly chart. We had gotten a Seeker 13 sell signal back a couple weeks ago and then went straight through and broke that risk line. That's the pink line right here very quickly. And when you break them quickly, it often leads to big moves. So right now, market's still on a roll. Again, we don't spend a lot of time looking for tops and bottoms. It's not our job. Got to analyze the market, let it show you what it's doing. But you don't guess and decide, okay, this is maybe the top, and start looking on the short side when the market continues to push up. We focus on intraday direction every day of the week. That's how we decide which trades we're making during the trading day. But from a broader picture, this is very strong for the market to have done this. Now let's take a look at the daily chart of the S&P. And again, this last week was pretty flat. And as a matter of fact, one way to really visualize that, let's take a look at the 10-minute chart of the S&P 500 this week. So here's Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday before it. We'll zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so that's basically a 20-point range on the S&P for the entire week. And that's extremely light. Now you'll notice, by the way, look at the Seeker gave us a 13 buy signal on this chart right at the close on Thursday. It led to a bounce on Friday. It's the only signal that you get in the whole week. That's pretty unusual on a 10-minute chart to only get one signal for the week. But we did, and it gave us an exact buy point for the market. Let's take a look now. Let's switch back over to the daily chart time frame, and let's take a look at the NASDAQ 100, which is the other major index. This thing has been very, very unique this year so far, and really not something we like to see. It's untradeable. Look how flat the entire month of January was, all the way into February. Little gap up and dead flat again. Little gap up and flat. Little gap down, I should say, and flat. And then look at here in March, we've gapped up, and look how flat again. And what's interesting is this has all happened while the biggest stock in the NASDAQ, the Apple, has had some issues since the beginning of January. But what you're seeing, it looks like, is not really money leaving the index, but simply rotating straight out of Apple and into other stocks, like Google, for example, which has definitely benefited from the fall off. So the net is that there's really nothing going on in the index, which makes the index almost untradeable this entire year so far, worse than the ES and the S&P. Which is very, very unusual. I mean, look back last year, you won't see any months that look anything like January and then this little flat area of February and most of March here. This is just a very unique environment. You've got the sequester going on. Obviously, that's a drag on the market. Hopeful that they can get something done there in the coming weeks so we can get that behind us and get the volume back into the market. You've also got what's going on in Cyprus that threatens to spill over into other countries. That could be problematic. So there's a lot going on that has the market confused, and that's why we're seeing the light volume that we're seeing, which is making things challenging intraday, and the ranges are very narrow because of it. Here's the SOX, the semiconductor index. This one had a 13 sell signal here. The pink is the risk line. You can see we ran up and hit it, couldn't get through, and fell over. So that's a good signal on that one. Let's take a look at the biotechs. And as we can see here that biotechs broke out of a beautiful cup and handle formation in March here, ran straight up like they should, now have settled down a bit. So the biotechs have been doing better than the rest of the industry. So that's the overall look at the market. Again, there's no signs of weakness yet. I mean, obviously you can expect that things are extended. You can look at some of these sell signals and wonder if you're going to get any confirmation, which we really haven't yet from any of them. But overall, the market's still been very strong. Most of the sectors, except maybe the semiconductors, are doing very well. Now let's take a look, as we usually do here, at the economic data coming out this week. And again, it's a short week. Monday doesn't have any data. Okay, in a short week, where Friday's the holiday, there's no data on Monday. Tuesday, we've got durable orders and consumer confidence. Consumer confidence can be a big number. New home sales. Wednesday, that's why I think Tuesday may be the more active day of the week. Wednesday, really nothing. MBA mortgage index, pending home sales, crude oil inventories. Thursday, initial and continuing jobless claims, the final look at gross domestic product for the fourth quarter. Chicago PMI can be a decent number, but again, by about after that first 2 hours on Thursday, and with the end of quarter window dressing going on and leading into Friday, which is a holiday, people are going to be walking out the door. I wouldn't expect much. And then Friday, the markets are not open, but according to this, they're still putting out some data, personal income and spending, PCE prices, and Michigan sentiment. Now, remember, when we come back after this week, chance of things picking up increases because you've got all those statements printed, you're done with the window dressing. That's 7 days out, and anything can happen to get the markets moving in terms of some resolution with Cyprus, with the sequester, but certainly to whatever extent the drag that's going to be this week and maybe even the last week or so is created by end of quarter, that will be behind us. A lot of times you see the market move right out of the gate at the start of a new quarter. So we'll be interested to see what happens the week after this one, but just, honestly, from a trading perspective, we're going to plug away like we always do, but I always like to set people's expectations. This week does not on the surface look like it's got the economic data or the technical setups for a lot of excitement. Matter of fact, fundamentally with that end of quarter, there's more going against it than we've seen so far. But that's just this week. It doesn't apply after that. Have a great trading week. We hope to see you at TradeSight.